Hello, I'm Jim Demmer with Clark County Close-Up. Thank you very much for meeting with us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Okay, so let's first let's get some background information because we're talking about both the Code Enforcement Department and Clark County Animal Protection and Control. So let's first start with the role of Clark County Code Enforcement.
Code enforcement basically has three prongs, three things that we're out looking for or get complaints about. One is building, and that could be anything associated with disturbing the earth. Hey, my neighbor's got a bulldozer running over there. What's going on? Does he have a permit? All the way up to where there's an existing structure, maybe your home, and you decide it's time to replace your deck. Mm-hmm. And the neighbors are concerned that I'm not really sure Jim knows what to do with a hammer very well.
And I don't.
And, and has he pulled a permit? Is a permit necessary? And it is important that you at least give the permit center a call on those sort of issues and determine what sort of steps you need to go through. Does it need to be engineered? Do we need to come out and do an inspection after the construction is complete for your safety, your guests, and the next purchaser of your home? Mm-hmm. So building is one. Number two would be some sort of a business that you're now operating. Maybe I have a bee business that moves into a residential neighborhood on lower acreage, and the neighbors are concerned because there's a lot of bees in my yard these days. Mm-hmm. And so we would look into whether or not there's a legal issue to having you have your daycare, your bee business, your car repair at that particular location. So that's the second prong. And then the third one would be nuisance. And that's simply where, Jim, I don't know what's wrong with your lawnmower, but you can't seem to be keeping up with the rain and the heat that's causing your grass to grow. I'm going to go ahead and call code enforcement, and they're going to come out and tell you to mow your lawn. Junk cars in your yard, just general debris and garbage sort of issues. So those are the three aspects that code enforcement looks for.
So a lot of issues. How many officers do you have to cover Clark County?
Code enforcement for Clark County is just the unincorporated area.
So this just anywhere where there's not a city?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we have two officers that work Monday through Friday, and they split the county into districts unless there's some specialty need that one knows more about this particular aspect of. I'll speak to bees maybe again, okay, that they know more about bees than the other one. But we have two officers that are working on complaints from around the unincorporated area of Clark County.
Wow, that's a big area to cover. Okay, and let's see, now let's switch to animal protection control. What's the role of that department?
Safety and well-being of animals and their owners is very cut and dried on that. Animal control does work for both the city of Vancouver and, again, unincorporated Clark County. We don't have Battleground, La Center, Richfield, Camas, Washougal. They all have either their own standalone program or they work through their own police department.
Okay, all right. And how many officers do you have available for the city of Vancouver and unincorporated Clark County?
There are 4, and they do work 7 days a week. The officers that wear our uniforms are 8 to 5. We do have an after-hour emergency gentleman that will help us out in case there's something that the law enforcement can't attend to. So between 8 and 5, you call me. After that, you call 911, and they'll take it from there.
Are the rules similar between unincorporated Clark County and City of Vancouver?
They are very similar. Coming down here today, the one that stands out in my mind the most is the biggest difference would be roosters. There's a lot of people that are going back to backyard gardening, having your own eggs. I'll hit upon the bee issue again. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a hot thing right now. Inside the city limits, there's no roosters. They're loud.
Right. And
the density is quite different than in some areas of the county. So at this point, roosters are allowed in the county, but not in the city.
Okay. So let's skip back to code enforcement. So if you see an issue in your neighborhood, some of the things you were mentioning, what are some initial steps you should take?
You can call us. You can go online to the county's website and try to filter through the various codes. So for instance, Title 9 would be nuisance, Title 14 is building, and then Title 40 would be more of your land use. Mm-hmm. And you might be able to kind of discern, or maybe it'll raise the right kind of questions in your mind to get a hold of us. And there we have an online complaint system as well. So there's many channels by which you can try to figure out what's going on next door is legitimate. If you have a good relationship or really even no relationship, there's nothing wrong with going out over and trying to discuss it with your neighbor, find out directly from them what's going on, what the plan is, whether or not you're okay with it, and then whether or not the law is on his side or on yours.
Yeah, because your neighbor might even know it's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now on the other side, how can you avoid getting into trouble with your neighbors? What are some things you should be considering?
Talk to the permit center.
Okay.
So go online and filter through. Probably at this point you're going to be looking at Title 14, which is the building code, because you're doing something.
So let's say I'm going to be building a deck or putting up a new fence.
Right. So there are certain thresholds that you have to go beyond that would then trigger a permit. And then you can call the permit center, make an appointment, come down, and they can answer those questions for you. It's not very different from the utility companies that have signs around town that say, call before you dig. Very similar concept. Call before you start pounding nails, just to make sure.
Okay. All right. Now let's, and again, you can find those rules on the county website. So let's talk about some animals. What are some common complaints you receive in the summer regarding animals?
Dogs is the usual culprit. Running at large, vicious behavior. The dogs are out. People are out enjoying the weather, and the dogs don't necessarily always behave, or they're not being handled properly by their owner. We do have a leash law countywide, so please keep your animals under your control when off your property. They don't have to be on a leash on your property as long as they stay on your property. There is a penalty if the dogs are found to be running at large. Keep up to date on.
So wait. So if they're on your front lawn and you don't have a fence and the dog stays on your, it's okay.
Perfectly okay, and he can sit there and bark all day at you if you're walking by, but he should not be exiting your property.
Okay.
That's not allowed. Dog parks are a big thing right now. We have a new one coming online by the end of the year. We're excited about that. If your dog has the desire to get out there and exercise and you don't have those means available in your backyard, certainly go visit the dog park. There are great ones out there.
Okay. Now, also, what about in summertime, dogs in cars? Is that what kind of, should you leave your dog in your car? What temperature? Any suggestions on that?
The suggestion is do the right thing for the animal. Don't do what's the right thing for you. So if you want the company of the animal, but it's not necessarily in the best interest of the animal, leave it at home. They're not going to be any less happy when you come home and give them a big hug. Just make sure that when they're home on hotter days, they have food, shelter from the sun, and water available to them. That's all that we ask. If the dog needs to go with you, or you just can't live without them, do all your traveling around in the earlier hours of the day when it's cooler. When you stopped your car, make sure you try to park it in a cooler area, perhaps shaded by a tree or a building. Keep the windows cracked, have water available to them.
Because really the cars heat up significantly more than the outside temperature.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now, if you do have an issue with your neighbor's pets, is there also an online option for reporting?
Absolutely, yes. You can call us, you can email us through our web portal, and we'd be more than happy to come out and check.
And the same thing, it's probably a good idea maybe to talk to your neighbor first, if you feel comfortable enough doing that.
Absolutely. And don't come at it necessarily from the glass is half empty. Come at it from the glass is half full. Hey, I noticed that your dog appears to be barking a lot. Can I take it for a walk? Is there a way that I can do something for it? Come by once a day throughout the day and check on it, make sure it's got fresh water. Make it like that you care and you're willing to do something about it, versus the other side of it is where, I really don't appreciate your dog barking all day, and if you don't do something about it, I'm going to call Mr. Scarpelli and his crew. You have a choice.
Right.
I would choose the first one.
Do you get many livestock complaints?
We do.
Okay.
We actually have a criminal case that we're working on currently. We haven't done one of those, thankfully, in many, many years. But yes, there's a lot of livestock. There's less and less cattle these days, but we still have upwards of 30,000+ horses in Clark County. And when we get a call on a horse, it is typically not just one afternoon's visit. It's a weekly, if not an ongoing 6 month to a year period of time before we finally get the case closed. We do, through our volunteer program with the Adopt a Horse, we do bring in several horses a year. I think last year was 13, which doesn't sound like a lot, but feeding and caring for 13 horses is a tremendous drain.
And you also talked about, we were just talking before, hay donations and hay program for horses.
Absolutely. You can go to our website and there are links that will take you to agencies that we partner with that will take your money, they'll take your excess feed that you may have, they'll even take advantage of any labor that you might have to go out and buck hay here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Now, let's talk about licensing your pet. Why is it important to license your dogs?
Originally, licensing came about due to the necessity for rabies vaccinations. So it's a state law that your pets must be vaccinated for rabies. We have a low preponderance of it here in the Pacific Northwest, thankfully, and part of that has to do with laws that are pretty strict and strictly enforced. So licensing was a means by which you could verify that. And so when you come to us online or with one of our mail-in applications or something that you've done through a local agent, a veterinarian or a dog shop, cat shop, they will ask you to supply us with the rabies, the proof of vaccination. Mm-hmm. And that's where it all gestated from. Nowadays, it is about 60% of our income for the program. And so obviously the more people that we can get to license their dogs and cats, which is the law, puts more money in our pocket to provide even more and more services.
And like you mentioned, a horse can take a lot. Yeah.
About 62 licenses is what it takes for the equivalent of one average horse case.
Wow, 62.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The licensing pays for a lot. It pays for our dealings with wildlife, our dealings with vicious behavior, a little kid getting chewed up. You know, it might not be your cat that's on the third story of a condominium building that your licensing goes to pay for. It goes to pay for the program. You care about animals in the community they live in.
Okay, thank you. Now, if people want more information, where can they check online?
clark.wa.gov/pets takes you to the animal control one.
Okay.
The code enforcement one is not quite so clean. Just go to clark.wa.gov and then go to community development.
Okay.
And you will find code enforcement there.
Okay, and is there a telephone number they should be checking?
Yes. For code enforcements, it's 360-397-2408. And for animal control, it's 360-397-2488.
All right, well, thank you very much for meeting with us, and good luck with all the issues this summer.
Thank you.